What's good, YouTube? Man of Steel here. And before I start listing off tips and resources on what I truly believe will help you not only decide the best deck for you, but also improve as a player, I'd like to sort of give y'all my credentials as I've finished within the top 1000 in both the A2B and A3 seasons of Pokemon Pocket. And at the time of this recording, I find myself within the top 50 of season A3A and trying my best to keep it that way. Nonetheless, the point of this video is not to tell you which is the best deck, but provide you the resources I use to determine what deck works the best for me. And hopefully in turn, y'all can take away from this something that will aid y'all in determining what deck works for you. So if you enjoy this style of video, please let me know in the comments, as well as recommend topics you'd like to see me cover, as who knows, I might cover it in one of my next videos. Also, please consider subscribing as I post all things Pokemon Pocket, and I couldn't be doing any of this without y'all support. First things first, before you decide on a deck, the first thing you need to establish is your goal within the game. If you click this video, you're clearly interested or have some interest in the actual gameplay rather than just collecting, which honestly, if you're playing Pokemon Pocket just to collect, that's its own like genre of game. Like, there's no issue with that. The same way there's no issue if you just want to play a competitive TCG. Granted, currently, whether it's competitive or not is like up to, again, how you take it. There's definitely a casual lane and there's a competitive lane, but the most important thing is to determine, are you looking to just casually play the game, or are you looking to be competitive, whether that's climbing the rank ladder or participating in the many community tournaments that are currently happening at basically what feels like at all times. If you're just looking to have fun, the best advice I can give you is to start with like your favorite Pokemon or favorite artwork or playstyle. And as you can see, my favorite Pokemon is actually Onix, and my very first video, at least Pokemon Pocket video on this channel, was actually me using an Onix deck in the 5-win streak challenge, or one of them. I don't know if it was the very first one or the second. It was very early on into Pokemon Pocket when they started releasing like the 5-win streak event and so on. And when it came to playstyle, my very first deck that I did just because I loved how it worked was the Weezing Koga line. And it's one of those decks that I always go back to. And now with the poison support, it's like basically my favorite deck to play if I'm not in a competitive setting. Like if I'm not on ranked ladder or like in a tournament, I tend to build that deck. I use it a lot in my extra solo battle list. All this to say, if you're here to have casual fun, there is fun to be had in Pocket, and I'm sure your favorite creators from Mogwai to Godly to, I don't know, there's so many that focus on like that type of content where your favorite card, trust me, they have a video on it. They probably have a list that will get you on your way. Now, if your goals are a little more sweaty and you're trying to climb up the ranks of Pocket, or just interested in knowing what the best decks in the format are at any given time, let's jump to my second point and the first resource of the video, PokemonMeta.com. And before I start talking about this or Limitless, which will be later on in the video, I want to specify that I have no like affiliation with any of this. I'm just presenting exactly the resources that I use. There's other websites like Pokemon Zone and stuff that also have details. The reason I prefer Pokemon Meta is mainly because I came from like the Duel Links background, and I would watch a lot of Decade, and that's why I started Pokemon Pocket through his videos. But nonetheless, we're here, and the main thing that I want to point out is the tier list. There's other resources which we'll look into right after, but the tier list will give you a generic or a basic idea of what the best decks are, or most popular as well, because a lot of these tend to happen are due to like play rates, and we'll see that in the Limitless where we see more in detailed stats. But as you can see here, currently, based on actual information, this is not like, oh, the guy behind this website really likes Buzzfolds, so they'll put it like, this is all based on, it's automatically update based on results from community tournaments. Granted, it could be swayed by the fact that some tournaments only have like 30 people. Others, like the Ursi days, which we will look into, have like almost 1,000, which are far more, clearly the 1,000 player tournaments are far more like reliable for stats, but nonetheless, that's why I don't just use one resource. I use multiple, and to give me a better idea of what's going on. And the best thing about Pokemon Meta, though, is like I said, if you're looking to be competitive or see what's good, this will give you a pretty good general idea of what like the more popular decks or more effective decks are. As you see, Buzzwole is definitely the most popular, whether it's like through performance or just like sheer amount of like people using it. It is a tier 1 deck. Solgaleo is also very good. And then tier 2, you start seeing decks like Silvally Rampardos, Giratina Darkrai. If you were to like look a week before, Silvally Rampardos was probably tier 1 because it was actually the most played deck. One thing you'll notice, the more you play every season, the best deck tends to be, or the most played deck tends to be, whatever the aggression, like the aggro version is. A set ago, it was Rockruff Rampardos. The set before that, it was like Rampardos Lucario. The theme is technically Rampardos. Rampardos tends to dominate the beginning of every season just because it's a very fast deck that wins or loses very fast, and people are just trying to climb up to Master Ball or to Ultra Ball or to wherever they want to get very fast. So that's one of those decks that if you're just starting, it's pretty simple to I guess maneuver. But that's just, as you can see, you have a good idea of what the tiers are. And if you go here like to Buzzwole, it'll give you like the play rate of cards, like every deck 100% of Buzzful decks play 2 copies here, and then you'll see cards like this, like a quarter of Buzzful decks are playing Sabrina, but over 50 are playing Cyrus, and so on and so forth. It gives you those stats, and you can see they added this recently actually, where you see like the win rates and stuff. I used to use Limitless exclusively for this, but technically now you could also find it here. Other things you can find here are decks, like multiple decks of people. You see the top 32, top 8, top first place, and you can see what people are playing. This is a sample deck of what people are playing now. Granted, this list specifically, I wouldn't be my first choice on how to play the deck, but that's nor here nor there. You have options, you have things to see. Another thing that I like from this website a lot is top decks, and this is geared towards both casual and competitive people, because as you can see, there's everything. It's no longer the tier list. Like, there's Ultra Necrozma decks here, and apparently they did well in tournaments. But this is where I mean, like, you see, this only had 38 players, so not to discredit the player that got top 4 in a 38 player tournament, like in a tournament with Necrozma, but like you can see, like, this Necrozma deck wouldn't get top 4 in a 1,000 player tournament. What the reason I mentioned this, like, when you go to top decks, is if you want a Necrozma list, now you know a deck that did pretty decent, and it gives you like a starting point. That's what, like, I feel like there's a stigma against like net decking, or like just looking at people's list online. Yes, there's a level of like respect that happens when you build your own deck, or like, I guess, accomplishment or fulfillment when you're making your own deck, but that's not what everybody's out here to do, right? Like, not everybody is a chef, not everybody is a farmer, I guess. Like, there has to be a farmer for you to have chicken on your table. Like, there's people that are very good at deck building, there's good people that are very good at playing, there's people that are very good at both. Not everybody could be everything, not always, at least, and not in everything. So like, don't feel bad if like your way of like succeeding in this game is to find like I don't know, a Guzzlord EX list, clicking here, trying this out, and then you start doing well, you start climbing up the ranks. It doesn't give you or make you less of a player just because the list came from a website, but that's no here nor there. Like, my main point from staying Pokemon meta is that it gives you the access to not only the tier list, so you see what the best decks are in a competitive setting, but also you get to see the top decks as well as what cards are being played the most. And also, it's not a resource I personally use, but as you can see, they have a bunch of like articles that teach you more, or give you a better idea of certain aspects of the game. I personally don't mess with those things, but it's not to take away from them. It's just not a resource I personally use. Second resource, and I guess the third topic of this video, is definitely Limitless. I kind of like already skipped to this part, but if you look up like Pocket Limitless, you get into this page, and you can technically look up cards and all that. What I personally focus on is tournament decks. As you can see here, it gives you a wide aspect of like what the meta is throughout all the tournaments that are running on Limitless. Again, I'll have links for all of these. I don't have no affiliation, but again, Limitless is like probably the best place to find tournaments, and maybe I'll do a separate video on how to join a tournament. So this gives you basically a huge entry of data of what is being played the most. As you can see here, Savalian Rapardos in the tournament setting is by far the most popular deck. You could sort it by how much is being played. You could sort it by win rate. Look, right now the most winning deck is Giratina Stoutland, but this is where it matters, like stats matter. And I'm not saying you have to have a degree in statistics, but as you can see here, it has only 13 decks have been using this, so it's like a very small sample size. It's harder to compare the, what is that, like 69, it's like 70 games worth of Giratina Stoutland to, if you go to, actually, can I get a share back to, okay, so Savalian Rapardos that has over 5,000 games of sample, right? So this 53% win rate, almost 54, is far more like not only credible but like solid, like defined statistically, than the Stoutland. Not to take away from Stoutland, you could use Stoutland and win. It's just, don't be surprised if you play Stoutland and don't replicate whatever absurd win percentage they've just had, like 62% win rate. That's not sustainable over the case of like 5,000 games. This is what I'm trying to get at. However, when you do rank it by win percentage, you start finding decks like I said, Savalian Rapardos. You start finding both Buzzful lists are very successful. So like if you're going competitive and you're like, oh, I'm trying to find a good deck, this is a really good way of finding out which one the best and most consistent are. But you could also find like a rogue matchup here. Like you see Guzzlord and Zeraora are leaning towards like seeing more performance, and they're having really good win rates. The best thing to do though, let's say you're on ranked, you don't want to play the best deck, which in this case, in the case of this conversation, we'll say it's or the most popular deck is probably more important. You want to beat the most popular deck because that's what everybody's playing, or what you'll see most on ranked ladder. Granted, in my personal experience, Savalian Rapardos has fallen off a bit, but nonetheless, we'll use it as the example. You're able to click here and check up matchups, and not only were we now seeing what how Savalian Rapardos is performing as a whole, now we're able to individually see how it's working, and you could either divide it by what like the biggest matchups. So like these are the most matchups it's gone against, or you could also change it by like win percentage. So like oh, I want to beat Sylvania Rampardos. Let's see what is doing the worst against. And you could skip all of these because these are all like ones. The best way to do this though is going by matches and then looking at these win rates. Look at this. Okay, so Buzzwole Pheromosa has a 60% win rate against Sylvania Rampardos only has a 40% win rate against Buzzwole, which means Buzzwole is winning 60% of its games against Sylvania Rampardos. Okay, so that's a pretty good deck that y'all want to try. So you click on Buzzwole, and then you could get best finishes, and here you get a bunch of lists of people that have done very well with the deck, and you could click list, whatever. Again, I'm not promoting net decking. Like I said, I don't find it as bad as people say, but this is not a video of like, oh, find a deck to net deck. No, this is like how to find the deck you want to use. So in this case, like if you really want to beat Rampardos, like Sylvania Rampardos, we find that the best decks to do that are, well, let's get back to Sylvania Rampardos, are the Buzzwole. So Galeo also has close to 60% win rate. The other Buzzwole in general is very good against it. But then you see, like, if you're trying to beat Sylvania Rampardos, you're not going to play Charizard Incineroar because Charizard Incineroar loses over 40%. Like, you only win 30% of your matches against Sylvania Rampardos, so that's not a deck you would try. Same thing with the Decidueye. The Decidueye loses over 30%. You only win 20% of your matches. So, again, maybe this is too much numbers, and if so, feel free to comment down below, and trust me, I'll explain it. I'll take my time to explain it as much as concise as necessary. But basically, what you're seeing here is the deck of choice, which in this example we use Sylvania Rampardos, and how it's doing against the meta. And there you can find out like what decks are doing really good, what decks are really bad. Like this is a sneak peek. Guzzlord wins a lot of matches, and it's like, oh, you're not top tier, but it's like a little niche, and you can find it. So, same thing happens with Buzzwole, which is probably the second most used deck. You go to matchups and you start finding. Look at this. Solgaleo beats Buzzwole over 60% of the time. So as you can see, Solgaleo beats Sylvania Rampardos and it beats Buzzwole Pheromosa. So now if you're trying to find a list that's beating all of that, you find Solgaleo, you start doing that. But let's say you're starting to fight a bunch of Solgaleos, you go to Solgaleo EX Genetic, check matchups, and you're like, oh, what's Solgaleo struggling against? Oh, Charizard Sylvania beats Solgaleo, so you could try that. What is this? All these Oricorio lists crush Solgaleo. Solgaleo cannot beat an Oricorio list. Talking about Oricorio, this is one of the examples of like why just tier lists don't tell you much, like the whole story. Like yes, tier 1 is Buzzwole Solgaleo, tier 2 is Sylvania Gyarados. Greninja, Giratina EX Greninja is according to the stats here, tier 4. That deck has solely gotten me to top 50 this season. Like it's my favorite deck of the season. Is the one that's performed the best for me, and it's technically not even top tier, and it's all because I go into Limitless.com. I check what decks are working, what decks, like if we look at Greninja Oricorio, which is what they have listed as, because if you click here, Giratina Greninja, you see it's literally the Oricorio list. Granted, my list only has one Greninja. If you want the perfect list as well as gameplay on how to use the this list specifically, I'll link it down below or put a time card. I have gameplay on the exact list that's gotten me or propelled me to my current state in the ranked ladder. But again, it's very important to see that despite this not being a top deck, it only has about like a sample size of 200-ish, 250 games. But look at these win rates. Unfortunately, yeah, you have to ignore that we get wrecked by Sylvania Rampardos. Like I mentioned, in my current like spot in the ladder, I don't really face this deck, so I get lucky, right? Granted, I do tech a specific card that is in my video to counter this specifically, but you have 80% win rate against Solgaleo, 80% win rate against Giratina, almost 70% against Buzzwole. Like, trust me, there's like a reason why this deck's so good. 87% against Charizard and Incineroar. Like there's a reason why I picked this, although it's not the top, it's not the most popular deck, it's not like the craziest deck statistically. It has very good matchups against some of the most popular decks, and I have to take in consideration that Sylvania Rampardos is not as popular. So like if I went on ladder and went against 3 Sylvania Rampardos and started losing, that's when you switch it up. Maybe I'll try Solgaleo, as we saw earlier. It's the best deck to take on Sylvania. It's the best deck to take on Buzzwole. And you got to keep on playing with the things. That's another thing that I recommend that wasn't initially part of like the concept of the video, is to not just play one deck. It's very important to have multiple, so that when you fall in a funk, you have another deck to fall down to, or also just switch it up. You don't want to get bored or feel like stale, like the format or the game is getting boring. And then the last thing I want to touch on is like actual tournaments. If you check here, you're actually able to check metagames of like the biggest tournaments, and basically it lets you hone in the same stats that we were looking at earlier, but in a sample size that I find or deem reliable. As you can see here, again, there's over 1,000 players or almost 1,000 players. So all of these decks have a crazy amount of sample size of games played, and it gives you a better picture of what's going on. Like if we go by win percentage here, again, Garchomp Stoutland, 75% win rate. There's only one player on it. So not to say that this deck isn't good, but if we look at the matchups, then you'll start seeing that they went against one Solgaleo, they lost to it. But had they gone to tournament, gone against three or four Solgaleos, maybe this deck wouldn't have even popped up on the list. It's that type of thing that you have to keep in mind when looking at these, what I mean by statistics, right? And then as you can see here, back to the win rate percentage, what we have to do is technically jump to share, and then as you see the scores is where you can see what decks really popped off. As you see, everything here was pretty like basically fighting for 50% at best. What stood out was definitely Buswell Celesteela. What else? Solgaleo did pretty decent, 52%. Zavali's Aurora is basically, I guess, the MVP of this tournament specifically, although it did not win. If we look at it, what deck is this? Incineroar Charizard did well, but it's only 3 decks. So yeah, we had 30 people on Savali's Aurora, and the best part is that it combines all their stats together. So it's not just gonna have an outlier, although it could have an outlier. So like when we check here, it shows you all the players that were using it. Granted, this is not to like put anybody on blast or say like, oh, this person's better than the other. This person obviously went crazy. They got top 4 with it. They went 10-2, but the deck itself saw a lot of success, as there was multiple people that got 6-2, which 6-2 is usually enough to get to top cut. But due to how many intentional draws and like tiebreakers and stuff, again, those are stats that if all of that is too, like, I guess, nuanced or too wordy for y'all, I could make a separate video just on the tournament games of Limitless, or like not only how to join a tournament, but what the numbers mean, or what stats mean, or what scores are, or how to get top cut, or all of that. I could explain that. I have no issue with explaining that. Feel free to comment down below if you want to see that. I also don't just want to like throw a bunch of words at y'all and like it not make any sense. That kind of feels bad too. But all that to say that there's so many resources that help you find not only the best decks, but how to counter the best decks, but also just to keep up with the format. It's how you stay competitive. It's knowing what works, what doesn't work, what's been working for others, what's not working for you. And this is without even looking at a list. This is not net decking. This is like so far past that or so far before that. This is just seeing what works. Like now that you know that Silvali's Aurora is doing so well, or it has very good matchups, feel free to build your own. Like you know where to start with. Silvali's Aurora. Whether it's the supporters, whether it's the trainer cards, however you feel how to build it, that's on you. This is just me telling you how to get started, how to identify the deck that works for you. Maybe like if we go back to the metagame, like maybe Charizard's your favorite deck, so now like, or your favorite Pokemon, so now you have a way to do that. Or you really like Giratina Darkrai, which is not the most popular opinion as of late because this deck's been relevant for 3 formats already. But again, there's different ways of seeing how to use that. Maybe you like the poison strategy, like I mentioned, Weezing Koga. Weezing Koga is not as relevant anymore competitively, but if you like poison, Guzzlord Nihilego is still a thing. And if we go further into, there's actually a list. I think it was it this one? That actually beat 3-4 Buzzwoles. Like Buzzwole's supposed to be a bad matchup for Guzzlord because of the dark. It has a weakness to grass. However, this list specifically, and you could check. This is where I actually recommend looking at deck list. You could open image. Like whether it's because they completely doubled down on the grind core with the Team Rocket Grunt, or because they poison barb, or just the way their playstyle was, which is something that you can't teach. Like unfortunately, we cannot see this person's games. They were able to beat their worst matchup on paper and beat 4. But if you check this same list as a whole, and you go to wait, this is still the guy. My bad. I'm doing this on the fly, so sorry if it's a little messy or all over the place. If you go to matches and you go to score, you can see that actually it was like below 50%, and Pheromosa was actually 33%. So this guy was an outlier. But probably if you look at all the lists that people were playing, like if you check all of these lists card by card, there's probably either a difference or something. Let's see if it's a difference, or maybe it could be playstyle. Like if we look at both their lists, this is the guy that didn't beat a bunch of Buzzwoles. As you can see, he was on Team Rocket Grunt, but maybe it's the one Celesteela. I can't really tell you. It could just be playstyle, which is something that leads to my next point, which is just playing, practicing. That's probably like the most important thing. Just play games. Like whether it's you're losing, winning. If you don't want to lose, because obviously on ranked, because obviously it tanks your score. Play on casual PvP, or join tournaments where since it's free entry, win or lose, there's nothing to lose, like rather than time. But if you're practicing or you're enjoying the game, you're not really losing anything. And then the last thing, I guess what should be prioritized before just practice, is actually YouTube. YouTube is such a resource. Whether you're finding whether you're searching deck list, whether you're searching gameplay, I think gameplay is so undervalued. Like a lot of, at least my personal videos, I don't know, I don't have the stats for everybody else. A lot of my deck profiles, like the people basically drop the video the second like the list, like if you see the retention rate, it's basically the first 3 to 5 minutes people see what the list is and they just bounce. And this is not to like roast y'all or to like make fun. Like, I'm just being completely honest. And maybe with those statistics, nobody got to this part of the video where I'm explaining it, but it's so important to look at the gameplay, because a list can't do, like, if you neck deck this list, you copy it, put it on your game, and you start playing, it does not guarantee you a single win. Like, you need to know how to play it. That's where the gameplay part of YouTube, or that's the most important part, I feel, of YouTube videos. Whether your creators are just making fun decks, or they're super highly competitive like a Jody that gets like top 1000 every season, and they're teaching you like, oh, this is the best deck. The gameplay portion is so important because there's so many different lines. I know this is a game that people, oh, RNG, my opponent got lucky, oh, they had Cyrus every time, oh, they hit Sabrina. Like, there's certain ways that you could play the game where you can't obviously guarantee victories, but you could put yourself in the best position to win. And the best part to learn that is either through your own experience or watching somebody that has the experience, and you could kind of like reflect what they're doing to your own gameplay, or adding it to your gameplay. Or you could see where you do. If you watch me on stream, by the way, I stream on Twitch on Monday through Friday, you could join my streams and see me misplay left and right. Sometimes I could do a mistake, but when I make a mistake, I don't go like, oh, my opponent, oh, my Charmander was in the bottom deck, which could happen. But there's also like, oh, I should have red carded the turn before, or why did I red card here, or oh, I should have Sabrina, or I should have put my cape down so that my hand wasn't as large, so I didn't get hit by certain things. Like, there's something to take away. Not always, because there is definitely an RNG aspect to this game that could be very frustrating, but there's definitely a difference, not even a skill difference. It's more of like a knowledge and reps that you can't learn any other way besides either playing yourself or watching others do it, so that they're already there. It's almost like, I don't know. At this point, I feel like I'm talking too much. I feel like hopefully I got my point across. Hopefully you guys take something away from this video. And I didn't really have a plan on how to close it out. So hopefully if you enjoyed it or find it entertaining or learn something, please consider subscribing. Feel free to comment down below ways I could improve this format, maybe make it a little more straightforward. Granted, the way my brain works, it's very hard to like make it any more organized or organized at all. But yeah, consider subscribing. Follow me on Twitch as well. I stream Mondays through Fridays, 11 p.m. Eastern until like 2. I stream like 2 or 3 hours, and we're climbing ranked, trying to stay in top 100 now that we're there. That's pretty much it for me. Thanks for watching, and stay pro.